Driven, RE/MAX Hallmark's real estate show, with your hosts, Johnder, Perez, and Dan Salhany.
Welcome everybody to the Driven Real Estate Show. My name is Dan Salhany. I'm here with Johnder, Perez, and of course our wonderful Monica Hollands from Ottawa. So welcome, Monica.
Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. So thank you all for being here. Just wanted to share with you a little bit of a snapshot of who Monica is and what we know of Monica. So every time we do one of these sessions, we always do a dry run just to get familiar and get a little bit more insight on the person that we're going to interview. And of course, I've known Monica for a number of years and have gotten to know her much better over the last 4 years since we all turned into Hallmark, which is great. So a takeaway from yesterday's pre-interview was, we always like to have a title for each one of our shows. And in this particular case, we came up with "Nothing I Do Comes Naturally." And I think as we go through the interview, and Monica's laughing, I think as we go through the interview, you're going to probably realize that, like most of us, and some people are born with certain gifts that they just don't really have to work super hard at. It just comes to them. And then there's others, which is the majority, that have to put a pretty big effort into make sure that they're communicating and reacting and just taking action in certain ways for their personal life and for their businesses, so that they're excelling in every aspect of the things that they do. So Monica Hollands, who is she? So Monica is a licensed realtor. She got her real estate license in 2003. She currently works and has worked throughout that period of time with her husband, Chris Hollands. She's the mom of 2 wonderful children. I know she's very proud of, Alessandra and Stefano. And she has an ethnic background where her parents immigrated from Italy. What year was that, Monica?
They came from Italy in 1966. Yeah.
Okay, so they were probably the second large wave of Italian immigrants that came into Canada. She loves the redesign and design aspect of the real estate world, and she brings that to the table as part of her unique value proposition when she's dealing with her clients. She adds that as a huge benefit, and she'll share that with you guys as well. It's not something that comes totally natural to her. It's something that she's worked at and she's cultivated and so forth over a period of time. And Monica is also very involved in her local community. I know that for a fact, primarily in the arts and sports aspects of things that happen in the areas where she's raised her family and has lived a big portion of her adult life. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Monica once again and thank you for being here and for the sharing that you're going to give to us. So Johnder, do you want to start off?
Absolutely. So Monica, are you ready to go?
I am. Thank you.
Absolutely. Monica, welcome. What is the secret to your success in real estate?
I'm very passionate about what I do. I love what I do. And I would say, Johnder, that I really, really, really care about my clients.
So being passionate, having a genuine care for clients, which is a very important thing, of course, in real estate, because a lot of the outcome of their move relies on us, basically, what we do.
Right. And I think people know when you care about them, and they know when you're sincere.
That's right. So it's something that is very hard to fake in this, especially in this industry, right, with the competition that we face, right? And so having somebody who genuinely cares about you is, in a sense, a competitive advantage that you may have, right?
I think so. I think that when you come from a place of integrity and genuine care, that's the beginning of that trust that you build, right? They immediately connect. I always say when somebody walks into a house, people ask me, when do you know if somebody's going to buy that house? I say it's within the first 15 seconds. I know. Boom, this is going to be the house we're writing up an offer on. And I think it's with your relationships as well, it's pretty immediate. It's like, boom, you just connect.
Exactly. And we're going to learn through our interview today about your journey and and why this didn't come naturally. But it was, I mean, there are certain things, of course, that we sense about you, the genuine care for your clients and your business. And so we're going to discover that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started in real estate right from the very beginning?
Sure. So I was I was privileged and honored to be a stay-at-home mom until 2002. I started to get my license, and yesterday I was telling you and Dan that I picked up a lot and then put on a hard hat and boots for 8 months and custom built my house, which was fantastic. It taught me a lot about houses. And then finished off my license then. So I've been licensed since 2003 and joined my husband in the business who has been licensed since 1988.
Wow.
The idea was to kind of start as a part-time type of business for myself, but it's pretty hard to do this part-time. You're either in it or you're not, right? You can't be half pregnant and kind of hit the ground running. And always, my kids were always my priority, because back then they were 9 and 14, and they came first. My family always comes first.
So tell us what happened on your first day of getting licensed.
I sold a house on my first day. So that kind of set the bar really, really high, and but very exciting, very motivating. Kind of knew what I was doing, but very nervous, and it was just a phenomenal start.
Right. And so why don't you take us a little bit about your, I mean, you built a house. It wasn't something obviously that you did. Why don't you tell us about the journey of how you discovered the place that you wanted that you envisioned that you would build, and how that played a role in the development of your real estate career. How did you find this place, first of all? And
well, it's
the process, man.
Well, February 14th, Valentine's Day, we're going to go on our trip to Aruba, and literally, walking by this lot that I had walked by it was on my street for 8 or 9 years, and always wanted to pick up that lot. There was an agent hammering in the sign. Immediately sent an offer in. She didn't want to run it because it was Valentine's Day, and pushed her. That was probably the start of my, and we got the lot. So just threw myself into it. Probably really developed a lot of skills building my house, but one of the things that I really developed was negotiating. Mm-hmm. So I had to negotiate everything. The bricks, the framing, the landscaping, the floor, like everything from A to Z. And that was a lot of work. Designing the house as well. I chose to build an open concept, eliminate the living room, which was not normal back then. Houses were still very much, you had a living room, dining room, family room, kitchen, a bit more closed. And I decided to just build a very open concept home, which was, a little bit scary, but it's still very much on trend. And obviously this is what people are really looking for now. And so worked really closely with all sorts of people, with the city, learned how the city works, which has really helped me in my career now. I mean, I never sell a house anywhere near any vacant land without hitting the city first and finding out, what's going to happen. So just developed a lot of skills.
Right.
Fantastic. So Monica, give us an idea of how you built your business, both yourself and Chris together, to the point of where it is now. What has been your primary focuses, and who are your clients? Where do you get your clients from, and whatnot?
I would say that we have a real relational type of marketing. We have a repeat referral business that's very, very strong. Having said that, I am a big believer in open housing. I love open housing. I think as agents, we are interviewed by prospective clients at open housing. Our clients love when we open house their house, and it's a great avenue for picking up new clients, you know. It's a great couple of hours on a Sunday afternoon. Very, very, very strong possibilities in terms of picking up clients, but mostly relational marketing. So I'm always trying to build the other part, right? New clients, you always have to work on that. Yeah.
So we're going to get back to the open house thing a little further along, just because I know that you've adapted with the inability over the last 100 days to not be able to perform an open house. And I know that this is uncharted territory for both yourself and for Chris. So we'll talk about how you embraced that and how you took action to figure things out. But I just wanted to get back to a question earlier about the biggest challenge starting out. And I know that you mentioned that you had sold a house the very first day. It kind of set the bar for the expectations. But how did you manage with having two children and being a stay-at-home mom primarily? How did you balance everything out with your family and whatnot? Because I think that that's very relevant to something that a lot of us deal with.
Well, first of all, I was really fortunate. Chris and I were partners, and that was really helpful. We would always be able to kind of play tag team. We're very involved in the community as well. So we were coaching and involved in the kids' sports. There were many times when I was rushing home from a showing, throwing my son in the back of my SUV while he was putting on his goalie equipment. I had lots of coats that were splattered with meat sauce because I'm over the stove, talking on my phone, running an offer. So it was very challenging as a mom. And I really look at these young agents with young kids and really, really admire them. And sometimes I don't even know how I did it, because back then we didn't have e-signatures. There wasn't anything virtual. We were literally meeting people at the office, meeting them at their house, faxing, scanning. We were on the road a lot. So it was really important that at that time, the offices be very close to my house, because I really wanted, to keep my eyes on my kids and be able to navigate all of that.
So it sounds like, and Johnder and I experienced this with phone calls from many agents on a regular basis as to, the chaos that, working for yourself and, having to be driven, there's that word, having to be driven every day to perform at a certain level, and then obviously to create satisfaction for your clients, and often very high demand clients. So it sounds like, the meat sauce on the work outfit, and the coffee spilt in the car, and whatever you want to call it, and zipping your kids out to a hockey game is, I believe, something that we hear about on a daily basis. That even though technology has helped us in so many facets, because we're such a body contact business, and our involvement, although that we've incorporated e-signatures and all this virtual stuff that's going on, I think the reality of it is that our true value is going to come out where we're able to balance both, where we've integrated that aspect of what we've learned over the last 90 days or 100 days, but still have the resources and the tools and the drive to be able to juggle things as you did in the past. So, so give us an idea of, and this is wonderful, and thank you for sharing, but give us an idea of what your typical day would look like.
I don't know if I want to share this. Okay, so I'm not a morning person. I get up, I read the paper, I read my news sources. I am on social media, so I really strongly believe in, if you're going to be on social media, you have to interact with the other people on social media. So I wish all my friends, clients, happy birthday. I see what they're doing. And so that's a big part. And that takes up a lot of time. Well, the first thing, and then after that, I kind of start to answer my emails. I'm very old fashioned. I have an agenda, a day book, and I look at my day book and I kind of start to putter away at the computer, set up my day, whether it's showings, whether it's going to be, now it's a lot of social media. I practice a lot of the, Canva, virtual open houses. I'm always practicing now and playing around with things. Lately, in the past 30 days, because I think there's pre-COVID and then there's COVID. Lately what I'm doing is I've got like, 2 of these things full of notes, and I'm constantly reviewing all the things that I've learned on the Zoom calls that the RE/MAX Hallmark has been putting on, because I forget, right? Like you kind of get focused and it's like, oh yeah. So I haven't put a lot of pressure on myself because it's so overwhelming, but I do try to pick something every day to go back to and practice and learn or explore. Sometimes it's just checking out an agent that has put on a Zoom call, seeing what they're doing. So just doing a little bit every day. So that's to kind of have a little bit of homework every day in that regard.
So it sounds like you're very structured in the way you handle these things and the way you execute. And yesterday we talked about having that you had a business plan, and of course that you've adjusted it. But throughout these years, I mean, you and your husband have both been in the business for a very long time. Would it be fair to say that, you have a very structured approach? Not like, we know the challenge in the industry. There's so many bells and whistles and distractions that always happen. Just the way you've described everything just now sounds like you've got this all somewhere, very itemized, very structured, very clear. Can you sort of, let's sort of dig a little bit deeper into that. How do you know what to do, when to do it, and what is it that keeps this running?
There are certain things that I have, lifestyle choices that I believe really help me be successful in all areas of my life. Things that I do. I have a very healthy lifestyle and I work out. So, for example, Sundays, when I used to open house, the first thing I would do on Sunday would be go to the gym. I would work out, clear my head, have a great lunch. It would just really just get me really charged up for my open house. So I was really energetic and ready, right, to meet all these people. Now that I've adapted and I'm doing virtual open houses, I still work out before a virtual open house. I still do something. I work out before I do a market update, because I think that's really, really important. So there's things that I do throughout the weeks that are very, very structured, for sure. I do yoga, I meditate, I work out, I have podcasts that I listen to. And then overall, I mean, this is not a business that you can be completely, every day you wake up and it's a new day. It's why I love this business. I do not know what my day is going to be like. And I love that. And I learned that when I was very young. I worked in an office one summer during high school, and I knew there's things I didn't know, but what I knew is that I was not going to be sitting in an office from 9 to 5. That was not me. I love to run around. I love the excitement of not knowing what's going to go on. I love meeting new people. I love getting out there. So this business suits me so well. I never ever whine about what I have to do throughout the day. Every challenge is exciting, and there's so many opportunities, which I really, really love. Every day we wake up.
So interestingly enough, and Chris is in the background. Hey, Chris. Interestingly enough, it sounds like, and for so many of these sessions that we do and so many of the trainings that many of us attend, the Richard Robbins, the Tom Ferrys, the whatever, and they talk about time blocking and having certain tasks that have to be done at certain times, so forth and so forth. And I don't disagree with that method, but it's not for everybody.
No.
And it's not, and
sorry to interrupt. It's really funny you say that, because I know this is where, like, Chris and I are the yin and yang, and it really works out well. If you look at Chris's day timer, we have the exact same day timer. His is black, mine's bright pink with stars, and his is time blocked. So he knows exactly when he's going to work out. He knows exactly when he's going to do stuff. And for me, I do the exact same. I never do not work out. I never do not meditate. I never, like, it's like brushing my teeth. Like, there are things that I do every week, but for me, it's different every day. So I'm very flexible and I can adapt throughout the day. And that's where, speaking to yourself, you don't have to be like that. We all have different personalities. So figure out what your personality is, right? Figure out who you are and you know, what moves you and what drives you and how that works for you. Yeah.
What I love about that is it just goes to show that the normal person, right, or the common person, like many of us, can still succeed at a very high level and not have to have, you know, everything identified to exactly when it's going to happen and so forth. So for those of you that, you know, are having a tough time with that full-on structure, there's ways around it. I know in Monica's case, you still get things done.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely. I like check marks. Like, I still write everything down in my book, and I love doing that check mark, right? It's like in school.
Do you have your book with you right now?
Yes.
Because I know you showed it to Johnder and I yesterday. So even
day timer. It's very sparkly. It's pink. It matches my office. Really important. And then, you know, I just I have all my things. I have check marks, like, there, just to kind of show you. So, and I have highlights, and these are the yellow highlights are all the Zoom calls, like AIM, office meeting, cultivating your mindset. Then I have all my check marks. What I don't have in there, which, like Chris does, I don't have, I do have my tennis matches, for example, because that's really, really important, those are very scheduled times that I have to be at a certain place at a certain time. But all the other stuff, which I pretty much do some type of workout every day, I don't. I'm not that scheduled.
The cool thing about what you just presented to us is it just goes to show that in the day of modern day technology, like, I mean, I've got my notes right here, which is based on our conversations from yesterday. So even in the day, for those of you that stress about, oh, I have to put everything into a database and I'm certainly not suggesting that you don't utilize those tools, but as a worst case scenario, if you're not that proficient, that, you know, carrying a book with you and just sticking it in your, you know, in the map pocket of your, you know, your car or wherever it is, and writing that stuff down, at least you're making a notation and you're tracking things that need to get done and things that you've accomplished. So good on you for just doing what works for you guys, right?
Absolutely. So I think that's really important too. It's so easy to get overwhelmed by what you think you should be doing and how you should be doing it, because I think that we all should be adapting, and we have a responsibility to adapt right now with some new ways of doing business. But how you do it is up to you and your personality, and, you know, being true to yourself, right? So
yeah, and it's interesting you bring up, because every one of us is unique, and you know, in as much as for everybody knows me, I'm very digital, but even my notes were on paper yesterday, because there's no way I could be flipping around on my phone and computer while doing it, and at the same time organizing it. So, but speaking of unique, you bring a unique value proposition to your business as well, Monica, and it goes a bit with your background in design, home design and staging. Why don't you talk about how this unique value proposition has allowed you to succeed with you and your husband's business?
I think that one of the things that I bring to the table is, this is very organic for me actually, is I love houses, I love design. So when my clients look at a house, buy a house, I am able to, if some things aren't working, I'm able to offer them solutions in order to make this house work. For example, it's the perfect street, it's the perfect location, but this doesn't work. I can pretty much say, look, let's get a professional in here to make sure we can take down this wall. But with my building background, I'm pretty astute. I'm able to say, no, you won't be able to do this, but you can do this. I can generally give them some cost, timelines, timeframes, all of that. And so I'm able to start the process, and then I'm able to help them after they take possession, and help them with the renovations. I have in the past. It's not really a market now. I have a lot of people that have flipped, so I've worked with a lot of investors. Love that. So that's a very interesting process, right? And I don't know if we're going to get into that market again ever, but so you're working backwards. You're seeing how much a house costs. They put a lot of trust and faith in me. Monica, how much is this house going to sell for? And then we have to work backwards. What is it going to cost to do the renovations? We work out their capital gains, and then we figure out if this is the right house to do a flip on. So I love that aspect of the business. I find it really creative. Obviously, also working with numbers, and so it's just very fascinating to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I love to keep up with the trends and help clients with that as well.
So where many of us hire stagers,
Yeah.
It sounds to me that you kind of take the reins on that part of helping them get their home ready. And yesterday, after you explained to us all the processes that you go through, and I know we're only getting a snippet here, folks.
Yeah.
But actually, Monica gets pretty in depth with their renovations, with their staging, furniture movement, placement, like the whole 9 yards. And I asked her, I said, well, even when they're doing a flip and they've bought the home from her, she still gets involved in that whole process of where they should be investing money and so forth. Do you charge anything for that?
Absolutely not. I think it's a value proposition that I'm more than happy to offer my clients. They really appreciate it, and you know what? They don't forget that. And I don't think I should be charging for that. I think it's something that I can bring to the table that they can benefit from, and I think it sets me apart somewhat. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's definitely that thing that your clients don't, like you said, they don't forget, and I'm sure that they reference back to when they're referring you and so forth. So that's a wonderful aspect of that.
I have clients that call me after 8 years in a house and go, Monica, we're thinking of renovating our kitchen. What should we do? What's on trend? Like, what if we sell in 5 years? What should I do? So, I'll go there and I'll be involved in that process and help them. And I truly love doing that and helping them.
Well, I think you speak to that on your social media as well, right? So with ideas and what's happening and so forth, and I noticed that you guys put stuff on there and the things that you probably share with your consumers. So they know that you're kind of ahead of and staying on top of what's happening out there and what's important and so forth. So Johnder, go ahead.
Absolutely. So it sounds like you're very, of course, doing the business since 2003 and your husband having been in it since 1988. That's a very long time to be doing this business.
Yeah.
And yet, it sounds like you're very excited about it. You're passionate about it. Every single day is a new adventure. So for those of us who are watching you and getting this energy from you, Monica, we wonder, what is your motivation to be performing at this and doing the same thing day in and day out? And yet been doing this for so long. What keeps you going?
Well, my life is about balance. So I run a business based on balance, and sometimes this business is so wacky. It's really hard to maintain that balance. But I think what keeps me, I love the lifestyle that this business allows me, and I kind of spoke to that a little bit earlier. But I just truly love what I do. I really love helping people. I do a lot of volunteer work. I coach. When I do something, I do it. I mean, when I started playing tennis in my late 30s, I became, president of the tennis club. I set up the leagues. Then I started competing. I could barely hit a ball. I mean, I was out there competing. And so when I do something, I kind of throw myself into it with a lot of passion, because I do it because I'm passionate about it. Otherwise, life is too short. Figure out what your passion is, and figure out what your passion is within your work, or your work environment, or your career. I think we all have something that we can pull from what we do that we could be really, really good at, and figure what that is and really just kind of run with it.
So interestingly enough, and folks, we're not getting, and for those of you that want to reach out to Monica afterwards and chat with her about some things, we really came up with this, nothing I do comes naturally. So yesterday during our pre-interview, she shared a ton of stuff and her accomplishments that were completely outside of her comfort zones, that were completely started off as an uncoordinated behavior, whether it was something physical that she was doing, something that she was implementing into her business, like so many aspects. Whereas, for some people, certain things just boom, come naturally. And she mentioned yesterday that, one of the skills that she learned early on was to listen better, and to start really focusing on instead of giving, it was more receiving, and then being able to give afterwards. So I just want to follow up with nothing comes naturally to you. So let's talk about, because I think this is really important, and this will resonate with a lot of the people that are on the call and those that will listen to this interview later on. The last 100 days has not been normal. And no. I know that you and Chris were floating along, and you were doing your regular habits and your regular routines. Bang, March comes along. And all of a sudden, what did you do? Because I know that you're going to hit your targets most likely, and hit your goals and maybe surpass them this year. Yeah. But there was a shift there that happened. So, and I think I've got.
Yeah. So COVID hits, and like everybody else, state of shock, grief, all of that, right? It's like, what's going on? So we had to make a decision, like, are we going to stay open for business? Or are we going to shut down our business? Like, it was just so crazy. Like, you almost kind of forget now how crazy that first week was, right? But we looked at things very logically. I had clients that needed to buy, needed to sell. So we chose to stay open, and we took it from there. And But we decided to, right, Chris is kind of chiming in here. We knew we had to do it responsibly, and we knew we had to implement certain protocol, and we knew we had to try to make people feel as safe as possible. And then we had to have a lot of discussions with clients that were thinking about buying and selling, and and some of them we said, why don't you wait? We have, immune compromised, elderly, and, we had to kind of really reach out to people. But literally within the first, I think, 12 hours, it just very naturally, first of all, I had to get my parents and in-laws back, and my kids back to Canada from Florida. So I was like working really hard on that. But then Chris and I just kind of looked at each other, and we said, oh my God, we just, all of a sudden, we started to think about all our clients that, had health issues, didn't have a car, that were living alone. We immediately started to reach out to everybody. And first, the most, those at risk, first, right? We just kind of went down the line, and then we just kind of continued to do that throughout the week, and then the weeks that just really wanted to know, how are you doing? How are you coping? Do you still have your job? Do you need any help? Is there anything we can do? And that was just a very natural thing that just, we were freaked out. We were just so worried about people, and it was awesome because because we were so busy up until then. And, we had people saying, no, Monica, we're doing really well, but we just had a baby, so it was kind of it was really positive too, actually. So.
Yeah, and it comes naturally. It extends naturally because you have a genuine care for everybody, and so with a structured business with decades of experience between you and your husband, it was just a matter of just adjusting and what they say pivoting, and then addressing the business in that sense. So many of us here are Hallmarkers and other realtors who may have joined us, listening and watching to you and gaining your energy and advice, and they're realizing that, hey, you know what, if I practice at this and if I do this long enough and as long as I'm passionate and genuine, I will succeed in this business. And yet this year, as I'm sure you'll agree with me, Monica, it's been a very challenging year for many who are listening right now. So Monica, what would be your advice to anybody listening to this right now who's facing this challenge and who might not have a certainty as far as what's going to happen over the next 100 days? What would you tell them?
Just work hard. Just we have so many resources, and tap into those resources. If you're not busy, get busy. I mean, pre-COVID, if you weren't busy, you had to get busy. So even now, if you're not busy, get busy and create your own energy. And that's my motto. I create my own energy. If it's slow or I'm like, okay, I got to change things up. I got to get the air. Like I'm not doing incense or anything, but what I do know is that energy is contagious. And start doing things but do things that, there are things that are going to be uncomfortable, and there are things that are going to be a little bit more uncomfortable, but just start and don't worry about the end result. Focus on the now, focus on the doing, and focus on the learning, and then just start to play, and don't take yourself seriously. Just really just work hard. I mean, I don't think there's any secrets to success other than, good old fashioned hard work.
Well, just a notation on that, because obviously through all of our Zoom calls and all of our training sessions and so forth that we've been putting on, we've had this for years, but obviously there was a higher necessity for it, and things shifted, so we had to shift what we were bringing to the table. And one thing I noticed about Monica is that she was participating in a lot of the sessions. And so just before we wrap up, I just want you to talk to us about, because I know that from a social aspect, all of a sudden I started seeing Monica Hollands doing these videos and doing these virtual open houses. So just talk to us about, was that the norm for you? How did you leap in? Like, give us some insight on that.
I'm probably like everybody else, like throughout the years, I've done a little bit of social media, kind of start, then get really busy with work, and then, it's on to the next year, right? So I've never really thrown myself into it. I had to throw myself into it. I mean, I knew I had to become more innovative. I had to adapt to this market because it's a responsibility. I have a responsibility to my clients to do the best that I can do for them. I have to do the best that I can do to sell their house. I have to figure out ways that I can do it. I have to get creative. And even in the past, if one thing wasn't working, what else could I do to make this happen? I mean, I have open house signs in my garage. When I was carrying lots of listings, I would do an open house from 1 to 2:45, then 3 to 5 on a Saturday. And then on the Sunday, I would do, if I had to do it, I just did it, right? And I figured out, then I had open houses on Thursday night, because I thought, well, people are going to the cottages. Let's do one on Thursday night. These were in the times when houses would sit on the market longer. I had to figure out how to create the energy for that house, how to expose it, and do the best that I could do for my clients. Because what I know is your clients, they will always remember how hard you worked for them, and that you did everything that you could do to sell their house. So with COVID, it was like, oh my God, how am I going to open house? Like, so I had to figure out how to really do a good virtual open house. So I started watching. Yeah.
So so you told us yesterday, so how did you do your first virtual open house?
My first one was like, I had a listing on Tarrant Road. It's kind of like an elderly building. They had shut down all the amenities. So I couldn't show any of the amenities. I have to tell everybody, this is the most nerve-wracking thing for me to do. It's not a natural thing for me to video in front of a house, and it probably isn't for a lot of people, but I had to open house this building. The apartment itself was really, really tired, and they had moved out and there was no furniture, and it was tiny. And I couldn't show off the pool. I couldn't show off all the amenities in the building. So I even had to get creative within that little bubble. So I stood in the foyer and I brought like a mask, and you can look at it on my social media. And I apologize to everybody. I said, I'm really sorry. This is my first virtual open house. I'm just going to do the best I can and bear with me. And so I brought, a tennis racket because there's tennis courts. I bought one of those goggles and I said, it has a pool. And I just did it was just kind of a little goofy, and I am a little goofy. So that was very real.
Being creative, basically, right?
I had to be really, really super creative. I also wanted to catch people's attention. So that video got 200 views. And it got a lot of views during the video. So I learned through our courses, I had to really figure out how to market it, how to invite people to it, remind people. So I did starting in 5 minutes. I have all these little things in place that I learned through all our sessions. And then fast forward to the last open house. I mean, it was a beautiful house, but it was a lot more comfortable. Like the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. So I have Chris videotaping me. He's looking at the questions. I know there's certain things I'm going to forget to talk about, so I ask him to prompt me. So if you can get someone to help you, that's really good, as opposed to walking around with the the extender and all of that. Yeah, so the second one, during the open house, I think I had 120 people were watching, which is, I think, pretty good.
Very good, yeah.
And then by the end of it, I don't know, I haven't looked at it lately, but it was like about 750 views, which I think is, pretty good. My clients is thrilled. Our clients were absolutely thrilled that I had adapted and I'm doing something different. And then I remember to ask them, like, hey, tell your friends about it and tell all your, make sure they're watching. So, it's a bit of self-promotion as well, right? But so
the effort in the discomfort zone has definitely benefited you. It's another unique value proposition, because I know that there's a lot of agents that still aren't doing them. And I think that you shared with me that your first one actually that you did was in your own home or something like that.
Practice. So you can go on Facebook and do only me. So I'm walking around the house, and all my kids it's pretty funny because everybody was, I had 5 people working from home in my house. So we're all in our sweatpants. My daughter's a lawyer talking to, she's on the phone, and I'm walking around yakking. And
so you basically have the same chaotic environment as most of us do, whether it would be with kids or spouses or teenagers.
So chaotic, and and that was hard because there was a lot of chaos going on, and I had to really, at some point, I had to say to everybody, hey, listen, I've got to stop being a mom. I've got to stop cooking for 5 people. I've got to like adapt I was starting to get really stressed about. Like I understood innately that I had to figure out different things, right? I just wanted to share something while I have you on here with the virtual open houses. I did make virtual open house signs for my toppers, and I still put out all my open house signs throughout the area. And at the very top, it has virtual open house. So it's going to help direct a lot of people to your virtual open house.
Interesting.
Well, I think like in everything else that you've done, Monica, regardless, I mean, we've got a really fast-paced, momentum-based market, and you're still allowing yourself to be uncomfortable and doing stuff that that doesn't come naturally to you, and you're doing it regardless of whether it's a really beautiful home or it's that condo that you talked about on Terran Road. You're still bringing that same level of service to your consumer, and it sounds like they're noticing. And I know that your views and people that are watching you with the things that you're doing has increased over the last couple months.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing those ideas and that inspiration with everybody that's here that's kind of shied away from it. So Johnder?
Thank you so much for sharing that, Monica. And we got a lot from you and about your journey and your excitement and just your passion about it, which is what's so admirable about how you and Chris have built up your business. So if anybody wants to connect with you and send you and Chris a referral or
Yeah.
learn a little bit more about your business, what's the best way they can do that? I know we posted your website up here, but why don't you tell us how to connect with you and Chris?
Well, you can connect with me on Facebook and Instagram. Those are the two mediums that I'm starting to really kind of work hard now. So you can message me there, or you can email me. I think it's on the chat, monica@remaxottawa.com. You can call me at 613-864-7975. And it's all on I've got all that information. I converted my Instagram page to a business page. That's the other thing I did. So everything's pretty visible and open.
Fantastic. And the website as well, www.monicahollands.com and www.monicaandchrishollands.com.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. So thank you so much, Monica, for sharing this with us.
Oh, my pleasure.
We wish you and Chris much success in everything that you do. And everybody listening and watching this later on YouTube or listening to it on the podcast, feel free to connect with Monica and Chris if you have a business to refer to them in Ottawa. Thank you so much, Monica. And we wish you the very best always.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you very much.
That's awesome.